Are you ready to be the best that you can be? Join hybrid business coach and consultant Charity Brown and her guest as they give you behind-the-scenes access to the insider tips and tricks that will help you take your business to the next level. Charity has an extraordinary approach to boosting businesses to break out of their modes, influence their industries, and become leaders of their packs. And she's ready to pass this inspiring knowledge on to you today. Learn how to change your game and build your business into what you've always dreamed of, right here on the Create Clarity with Charity podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Create Clarity with Charity podcast. Today, I have an amazing entrepreneur and CEO, Isaac Mashman. Hello, welcome, Isaac.
Hey, Charity. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
Thank you for being here. So Isaac is the CEO of Mashman Ventures. It's a PR firm that helps polish and brand people with their personal branding, not only their business branding, but also the person, which is so key these days. Right, Isaac?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yes. We want to make sure that our clients, whether you're a business owner or a CEO or just the innovator or maybe just a board member, people now are connecting businesses with other people instead of just the business name, right? And it really helps add value and gain credibility with our market space by doing personal branding, which is kind of new to within the last maybe 2 to 5 years, I would say, that people are just really getting into that personal branding space. And now we have an expert and pro here to help us understand exactly what that means. So Isaac, please help us understand.
Yeah, well, personal branding has been around since pretty much the beginning of civilization. There is a reason why there were chieftains in the old ancient days of Babylon that were more feared than some of the other chieftains, right? There's a reason why monarchs were able to stay in power and pharaohs reigned for hundreds of years. But now with social media and this entire concept of influencer and micro-influencer, personal branding is who you are. It is what people know you as. But there's a major misconception that comes today, and people are starting to be known for what they do rather than for who they are, and there's no longevity in that. And so personal branding is vital for the long-term success of a business. And I saw it as an open market. I saw it as a blue ocean. I saw it as something that had a ton of potential. And so you know what, like, whereas most traditional PR firms focus on corporations, I could focus on individuals, which is really unique.
Yes, and that is so crucial these days. I mean, as you know, starting your business from a very young age, high school age, we need all the mentors and support we can get in regards to our personal branding. It's not just the image, it's also a mindset, right?
Yeah, 100%. The mentality is key. I got involved with business when I was 17. I was still in high school. I was a senior, and I was going with the mentality of, hey, I'm gonna go to college afterwards. Like, I'm going to graduate. I got accepted to Florida State. University of Central Florida said I'm not doing either of those because everybody tells you to go to college, but nobody tells you what happens afterwards. And so in a very short amount of time, within the past 4 years, it's actually a little bit over 4 years now, like 4 years and 2-3 months, I've been able to try out nearly half a dozen or more business ventures, travel the world a little bit, traveled much of the United States. But what really got me far, and I know that this is your area of what you specialize in, it's the mentality, right? It's the mindset that really helped me propel myself forward by studying mentors and by finding people who had success, and not so much in person, but more so online. And pivotal impact on my business, like massive.
Yeah, it is. Yes. I mean, and this during COVID, I mean, I think the online course bomb exploded, and so did everybody's personal brand, because I think we're all just stuck in our box and we're like, okay, how can we create? Let's recreate, what are we going to do during this time where we're all on lockdown? And some have made masterpieces, right? And some really have done a great job on the components, but maybe their branding is just not polished. And so it's not hitting the market right. So would you find that most of your clients are those mentors, coaches, and like creators that may have a great concept or a good framework and just like are lacking brandability?
You know, the interesting thing is I do work with a lot of business owners, and I've done work with some course creators or people who are in the stages of getting their course made. But overall, I work with a bunch of different industries and niches, and they all have talent, they all have potential, but what they lack is the actual imagery online, right? You can have all the potential in the world and you can have all of the talent in the world, but if nobody knows who you are, that talent is virtually useless. It's think about like the grandmother who could sing her heart out at church, but then nobody heard her, right? So that potential went down the drain and nobody else could really cherish in her voice. And so that's what I see with a lot of clients, especially for people who are business owners who have a ton of fantastic information. They just lack the real imagery to position themselves as a expert and as a person of credibility and as somebody who other people would be willing to pay $1,000 to learn from. That's a massive issue. And there are way too many pay to win things going on today that really don't even have long-term results when it comes to credibility.
Yeah. And it just also comes off very non-authentic, in my opinion, the things that are going on and the way that people are approaching the paid venue. It just seems very fake media, and not like the genuine, authentic person that they are. So I think that that's kind of one area that you really focus on within your program builds and your personal branding, consulting, is pretty much making it seem that the authentic, true value of that person, not just what media or branding or business wants.
Yeah, well, press is fantastic for your personal brand and for your business, and you can send out press releases and get it syndicated to Yahoo Finance and Benzinga and Times Union, but that's one-sided. A lot of people have this laser focus on press and getting into the media. They fail to realize that there are other avenues of credibility, such as being on podcasts, right? This right here is a perfect example of me pitching myself, you saying, hey, this guy looks like somebody who I should interview. And then now this is expanding not only my credibility, but your credibility and as well as your numbers. Like, these are the secrets right here, guys. Like, if you're listening to this or watching this, that this is something you need to be doing for your business or for your personal brand. Even if you're an artist or a musician or a model or an actor or an actress, you need to be getting yourself out there and taking an overall aggressive guerrilla warfare approach, like hitting every single avenue, and being the person who goes into Barnes and Noble with business cards and dropping them in the business section. Like, that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, it is so true. You got to test everything. I mean, there's a lot to be said to just like put your feelers out there and try everything. Even you can even do it all for free. Most places, most media hubs, most platforms will allow you a 7 to 14 day free trial, and you can test your waters and to test as many platforms as possible and as many avenues to start getting some traction. So that's a great tidbit. And yes, our audience out there are, we kind of have a similar niche, customer avatar, as I would call it. I think you probably call it your avatar as well. We are working with, CEOs, chief everything officers. Okay. We want to make those chief everything officers shine above, the $1 million brands that are already scaling in this marketplace. So in your professional opinion, other than putting your feelers out there, starting a podcast, getting on YouTube, maybe not dumping a bunch of money in media, because actually it's better to have that kind of credibility and that notoriety when you have a reason to, or it will come off fake and spammy, or not spammy, but probably not as authentic. So what would you suggest for the common everyday CEO who's trying to get traction, maybe for a new program or product?
Well, I think having a diversified audience is key. Many people have 100,000 followers on Instagram and they don't have any credibility on any other platform. And I've seen this with some prospects that I've been talking to lately. You might have 700K on TikTok and 100,000 on Instagram, but let's say TikTok gets banned in the United States, as it was threatened to do a couple years ago, right? TikTok could have disappeared and you had all these people relying on one place to drive revenue. Well, now with the CEO or an executive officer or anybody who has chief in front of their title, it's important to be across multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, having a public figure page. And before you decide to run hundreds of thousands of dollars or even thousands or hundreds of dollars, to advertisements, you need to take a step back and make sure that your brand is right, because that's how you optimize conversions. Everybody talks about, hey, let me go ahead and sell you this course and swipe up, yet you go to their page and their page lacks the information. You're like, I don't even know what this guy does, so why would I want to buy from you? And so taking the couple of weeks before you start running advertisements to actually really develop your brand is essential.
Yeah. And just as you're talking about websites, I wanted to pull yours up here because it's very black and white, hence, but it's very clear and cut and dry. There's not a lot of fluff, which is cool because that's really what I teach my clients too. You just want one CTA, very clear. You don't have to complicate. Overcomplicating is a huge problem these days. So many people have so many ideas in their head, right? They're just convoluted all over their sites and you can't figure out what they want us to do on the site. Right. I have your site up, mashmanventures.com. And it looks like, you have a very clear devised strategy here for who's looking at this.
Yes.
Who your avatar is and how they're going to resonate with your messages. So it's definitely a place where you guys can go out there, all the entrepreneurs out there that want to get in touch with Mashman Ventures. He does have a great site that runs through a lot of the credibility and the amazing results that he gets his clients. But more about you, honestly, Isaac. I really think that you have an amazing story, and it's not just about your PR firm. You obviously do an amazing job polishing people's personal brands, and you have an amazing strategy that works and can be executed in a very short amount of time. But what I want our listeners to hear is really about your mission and intention as a CEO and an entrepreneur, that higher thought leader that is creating a space where people can be creative and be themselves and be able to bring their message to the forefront. So I want to get back into your story a little bit, get a little more personal here and talk about, you are a younger entrepreneur. You're in your 20s, you didn't want to fit into the general societal norm and check into the matrix and stay in the box, right? You decided to jump out, expand your wings, live your life on your terms. So when you were in high school, you mentioned that you started a clothing line and then while you were doing that, you realized that you could start many more businesses overnight, right? And you just became a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so there was something about the way that you created your mindset and did the mental mapping that helped you stay organized and really dial into, your dreams and goals and execute them and then have results. Can we talk a little bit about that? Like the self-confidence, you're working on self-development and the things that you did that helped steer you to become the man you are today?
Yeah, 100%. And that's a fantastic question. And really quick, before we move on to that point, we're actually working on adding news. Right now, I've spent all of the time on my personal website adding the articles. I've been featured in 24 since the beginning of this year and haven't paid for any of them, which is amazing. And so the site still has some kinks to work out. But for more information, you can also go to my personal site. And it's funny that you mentioned The Matrix because we just watched the trilogy a couple of days ago because Matrix 4 is coming out. So not to get too nerdy, but we just binge watched the series. The mentality though was, when you asked me before about how did you have this set business plan? Did you have all these things on paper? And I said, not really. It was all chaotic. I would map it out on paper, and I'll share the story really quick. By the end of my senior year of high school, I was checked out. I was like, I am ready to go. I had 4 class periods. The last 3 were just me sitting outside and going into weightlifting. I was in the computer lounge during lunch working on my podcast, and I just was trying a whole bunch of different things. I saw some different people like Gary Vee. As much as I don't agree with a lot of what he talks about today, he was pivotal and very important when I first started out because I saw the social media strategy. I saw what he was doing. And I remember my senior year when I was taking my AP literature class. It was an easy class. I breezed right through it and I wasn't trying. But my AP exam, I didn't read any of the prompts. I didn't read any of these stories. I'm like, this is a waste of my time. I showed up because I need to show up because I committed to. And then I was busy building out the structure for my network marketing company at the time, because I was in an MLM company and I was actually in it illegally, right? I was 17. I wasn't even legally able to sign for anything, but I was mapping out my prospects. I was like, okay, I'm going to build 12 people on this leg, 12 on this leg, and I'm going to have 24 on this, and that'll put me at $1,000 a month, or that'll put me at $2,000 a month. And that's what I was doing. Now I flunked the AP exam. I got, a 1 out of 5, but that is the mentality that I started to develop. It was like all or nothing, all in. And what I did is I started putting myself in situations to where you would call me a madman. One-way flights over to California, not knowing where I was staying, having things up in the air. Okay, well, this fell through, so I'm going to book another flight. And I just was willing to do anything because I knew, hey, at the end of the day, worst comes to worst, I can go ahead and work on the farm. Like I could do something and do odd jobs to feed myself. And then I took a one-way flight to France, the year after, and I just tried. I tried different things and I continued studying. I would go on walks, and when I went on walks, I would just listen to audios. I would listen to Earl Nightingale, Bob Proctor, even more of a controversial figure, Kevin Trudeau, because a lot of his information is fantastic. And so I just said, I'm going to do everything in my power to be the opposite of my family, to be the opposite of the people that I was raised around, because I was raised with scarcity. I was raised with, if we went to Tropical Smoothie and spent $6 on a smoothie, that was like a treat. That was something you would never do because it's expensive. And from there, it took a lot of time, but it's been great. And there's some other things that I've really dived into. I don't know if you want me to talk about it, but the mindset of the 1%. That's something that I really started to dive and adopt in my own life.
Yeah. And that's the way we got to think these days. The coaches, the mentors, the thought leaders, the people that have already been there, failed, and then done it right, and then are passing it to us. Mm-hmm. That is where the power is, people. You heard it right here from Isaac. He was reading and mentoring, even though he may not have one-on-one mentorship with us. A book is the mentor. A coach is the podcast, the YouTube. He was being spoke to directly through those, and he felt that in his bones to be able to create his legacy. And that is really one of the most important things about this podcast, is really to tap into how important it is to have mentors and coaches in our lives to continue to scale us to multiple 7 figures, or even to just feeling happy or content inside. Like he was saying that, being able to overcome our childhood woundings and being in situations that we were powerless over because we do not have control over our parents and situations, our lifestyle, until we're adults and we get to make our own decisions, and to be able to take a stand in life and say, hey, I'm claiming me. I'm doing what feels good to me. That right there is success, because society primes us to do what society thinks is right, get that college education, get that corporate job with the salary and that retirement 401k, that's what we're supposed to do. Right. And so this is kind of a newer out of the box thinking. And I really embrace that. I love that you really, kind of skipped out on the traditional education. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know, because I learned it from me with a triple degree. I was like a professional student of so many freaking accreditations and so much college debt that, it really is useless. And if you actually get amazing coaching and mentorship from somebody who knows a way and knows how to get there and gets you the results in 5 weeks or 6 months or less, then it's worth more than an MBA.
Absolutely.
So on that note, that's why I love what you're doing, because you're an authentic original, the unprimed from the general education system usually primes a lot of people to think a certain way and not really attain their true value in life. Right. And I love it. You don't care. You don't want to fit in the box anyway.
Here's the thing, Charity, really quick, is if you were to put me up next to any of these students that graduated in marketing or public relations or any of this other stuff, they're going to be telling you the numbers. They're going to be telling you the concepts. They're going to tell you to split test, A/B test. To this day, I don't know what that means. I test and I use my common sense and it works, right? There's a reason why I get results. And like, like what happens is you have all these students that spend so much time developing their intellect and all this other stuff, yet they graduate and they can't get a job, right? They graduate because the market's too competitive and they're still looking for 4 years. So now you have this degree, you have to be an intern for a couple of years, and then you have to work a second job in order to go ahead and pay your bills because the internship doesn't pay you. And then now you're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years deep, and now you're finally starting to make 60 grand or 70 grand a year. Meanwhile, in the next couple of months, I'm about to hit some months that I never thought I would ever hit. That would take me literally 2 decades to hit if I was working a traditional job, if that, and I'd have to be an executive management spot, in a company. And so that's the thing with going to college. And I saw people close to me with the degrees, working a job and going to school full time, and they graduated and never applied it. And so I'm like, you're telling me to go to college, yet you're not even using the degree you have. So I had to be very narcissistic, if you wanted to call it that, or I had to be selfish and say that I'm not doing that. I'm not going to take that approach.
Yeah, good for you. Because you're right. You got to climb the corporate ladder and then you hit the glass ceiling and there's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter how talented or smart you are. They have you boxed in. So congratulations on that tip. And then also your authenticity about really being transparent. I love that. I love your quote. It's not who I am. It's who I am, not just what I do. Right. That's kind of like your motto. And really owning that and owning your identity. And so that leads into some other really amazing things that you're doing. You do have a unique approach. It's very authentic and it really gets down to the nitty gritty on what people need to focus on, not just like aesthetically, like how's this graphic or what if I put this on Facebook, it's the foundational tools, the free ones. Hello, audience. Yes, free. As Isaac has pointed out to me before, you can do all that for free. Right, Isaac? There's a lot of free tips and tricks out there that really help kind of set a good foundation for people's personal branding.
Yes. And here's the thing. I say that we're all about maximizing results while minimizing expenses. Because when I first started out, I didn't want to invest anything into anything aside from my personal growth because I didn't think that I would be able to pay the bills the next month. And so I didn't invest in a calendar software or anything. And I found emails that were free. Zoho, Z-O-H-O. It's a free email service. Instead of using G Suite starting out, buy a domain for $20 through GoDaddy. That gives you your first year for like $1. And then you go to Zoho and you get a forever free plan. And now you have a corporate email. And that's the most, some people would say, oh, I could just use a Gmail. I could just have, consulting@gmail.com. No, you can't, because then you're going to look like every other email that I get in my inbox every day saying we're offering SEO services. And I'm like, you're using a Gmail? I'm automatically dismissing your email. That is how personal you have to get. That is how serious and OCD you have to be with building out your personal brand and your company brand.
Yeah, it really does. It does boil down to those very small details. That's so true. I do the same thing. I'm totally biased. I'm like, you're in business and you use Gmail. I just don't understand that.
Yeah, not happening.
Yeah. I mean, and then you can't even like use that Gmail on a lot of sites to register your business because it's not a professional business site. So
exactly.
People will learn. But yeah, that's, G Suites is amazing. I love it. Also GoDaddy, like you buy the domain, you can buy the email, you get to use it. It's a super, super awesome way to execute a business email with a domain. So that's a great tip. Thanks, Isaac. Also in regards to, delegating and, putting together, what did you call it? Unrivaled strategy, right? So it's unrivaled strategy in regards to education, mindset, story, message. Can we go into that a bit?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a couple of different packages whenever we work with someone, right? We have the one single consultation, which is let's go in, let's get out, let me answer your highest value problem. Or we have the mid tier, which is unrivaled strategy and training. And that's 4 consultations over the span of a month or 2 months, depending on how long you want to work and how much homework you need to do, right? Like how hard do you want to go about your personal brand? And then we work with our people for an entire year in the unrivaled year long strategy and training. I'm not here to sell anybody, but if you do want to work with me, great. I mean, I'm blessed, but we start with the foundation, right? Just like we're building out your personal brand with the foundation of the, the messaging, what your profiles are, what your social media handles are, your domain, your email. We start with the foundation of you as an individual. With the education. Education is vital. Many people misinterpret and misunderstand personal branding and company branding. They think that they're identical, and they're not. They're two entirely different things that are tied in with a symbiotic relationship, right? They work off of one another. No, most people, I get on a call, they're like, what's the difference? So I start with the education, move into the mindset, and that's where I tap into the mindset of the 1%. If you're walking in the mall, what's your elevator pitch? Are you comfortable coming up to a complete stranger and pitching yourself, getting their socials, giving them your socials, and talking about you? We were raised not to talk about ourselves growing up, because they labeled us as like not crazy, but as, selfish kids. If we wanted to talk about what we had going on, we needed to engage the conversation about other people. Well, flash forward, breaking news here, you need to go ahead and talk about yourself if you want somebody to know about what you got going on. That's how I knew about what you had going on. You had somebody talking about it, then we talked about it, and you told me about what you had going on. And I'm like, our values align, so I'm going to work with you, and so it's the same thing. And then from there, we go into the branding basics of the profiles, what sites you need to be on, what your imagery should look like, what colors are associated, more of the aesthetic things, the basic messaging. And then we go into establishing credibility, getting on podcasts, getting into the press for absolutely free, and those sort of things, because credibility is massive once you get the foundation laid. The follower count only gets you so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and that's one thing that I help my clients with. I totally agree with all that. The followers don't really matter. You can pay for followers. You could have 1 million followers by next week if you want to drop 10, 15K, that's not really the point anymore, but it does help build credibility. But it's also that, that's just what society wants. They want to see somebody successful, have a lot of likes and follows. It's just to keep up with, the norm. That's, what people look like, but it doesn't really mean that person really has the notoriety or actually the skills that make them successful. So that's the other thing. Being able to see between the real and the fake these days is really important. There's a lot of people self-branding, but they aren't even clear on their message yet for their coaching business or consulting business. Like, you really do actually have to be an expert to get paid for it, right? It's super important that people can dial into really what they are good at. And so that's the other side of the equation, because it takes, like I said, the internal inner fitness priming of that person who's ready to self-brand, really to believe in themselves and really to know what their core foundations are that they're representing. So how often is it that you get clients or people that come to you that want to self-brand, that want to be in the media, that want that amazing profile, but they don't really have a concept, product, service? They just want to do it.
I love this question because all the freaking time. And here's the thing, Charity. I have named so many businesses within the past year, and especially the past 8 months of 2021, 9 months now. I've lost count. Like I've named a company out of Austria, Kulik Digital, named a company recently, Dickow Projects, with a friend of mine, Jordan Dickow. I've named other companies, Mandeville Fitness with my good fitness influencer friend, and he's actually the lead personal trainer for Mashman Ventures, Logan Mandeville. Like, I've worked with all these people because they were looking into all these different directions, and I've seen my position more as like a mentor than a PR firm at times, because I'm trying to give them clarity on what they need to be pursuing for their own life and for their own business. It's like Logan came to me, he's like, and I love the kid, and he wouldn't mind me sharing this, but he's like, I'm thinking about doing a social media agency. And I'm like, why? He's like, I don't know, because money. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, yes, you can make money, but I'm like, Logan, you have a 6-pack, you're in better shape than 99% of America. why don't you go and pursue personal training? And now he's hit some massive months, and he's helped a ton of different people get into better shape, including the people on my team, because now he has a concept and he's able to grow with that concept. The foundation, if you lack that foundation and you don't know what you're growing, you're just going to be running around chasing after a bunch of different things. And that's where I found myself before too. And it's not a good place to be in.
Yeah, it can get very convoluted. And that's why I'm talking about it, because I think all of us that are entrepreneurs, we're kind of innovators, we're the ones with the big ideas. But then when we bring it to the table, there might be like a fumble because we weren't 100% clear on exactly what it was. So when we gave it to our team to execute, it didn't really turn out the way we thought. So that's why I think it's really important of dialing into that planning and getting the person ready for that and getting their mindset and getting them really dialed into what that message is before they go creating an amazing brand with their own name, right? Because you only get one shot when you're personal branding. It's your name, unless you want to change your name. You don't want to come out and fumble because it's very hard to fix. So when people come out with, new businesses and new brands, and they're using their name as their business, it has to be executed and thoroughly planned through with frameworks, right? And definitely the foundations dialed in first. So is your program Unrivaled Strategy and Training? Does that put them in that position, that place of knowing exactly what that is?
Yes, if they want it to. And what I mean by that is, if somebody comes to me and they don't do what I'm telling them to do for their homework, how can you expect to get results? It's like you buy the course and you don't go through the program. Now, I've done that before when I was an MLM. I bought the program and I didn't go through the program. I'm like, I'm not even using the product. And that affected my sales, right? And so it's the same exact thing. But whenever somebody comes to me and I work with them, I go and take them through everything, the step-by-step process. I will not hang up the phone. I will not end the Zoom meeting until we have things figured out. And that can take time. These consultations, I'm not like a lawyer. At minute 121, I'm going to up your rates. Like, I tell them, I'm like, average consultations last from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. You better be sitting down. And I've had some calls. My Austrian client, fantastic guy, Serhat, it took us 3.5 hours on 2 separate occasions to get his stuff figured out. And he's gotten results, and he's listened to what I told him. And so, yes. Now, I'm not saying to overthink yourself into this hole to where you never progress. Like, don't overthink it, but you definitely need to take a couple of weeks to get some things figured out before you really start putting yourself. And don't be one of the people who, all of a sudden you're starting a course and you're trying to sell it for $1,000 and you ruin your reputation because your course isn't worth $1,000 in information. And that's what I see a lot of people trying to do, not personally, but extended circles and by watching people online and how they operate. That's what I've noticed a lot.
Yeah, me too. Definitely. And that's really key because, they think, oh, well, everyone's doing it. Oh, I got this idea. I can, show someone how to start an ad agency, tomorrow. Actually, I can set up a legit viable business with an operating agreement, a bank account, merchant service, pay card, everything under 24 hours. So I think everybody has like come up with this idea that, oh, I can start a new business overnight. So let's just execute it and we'll throw it out there and let's see who bites, and that is what a lot of us are used to seeing now are these kind of half-ass program builds, options, pages of professionals, experts that aren't delivering. So with that in mind, I can't express the importance of hiring a pro expert like Isaac, being that he does have the key foundations and the tools to really brand and set someone off proper. And that's the key. Like you could probably do it on your own, but it wouldn't be with the precision and with the expert advice from somebody who knows and has been there and has done it time and time again. So, I want you to send our audience off with wise words from you, Isaac. And once again, it's really been a pleasure getting to know you and maybe even talk about Unrivaled, your podcast, and let us know what's to come.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you again, Charity. And it's been an honor. And before I jump into that and do any CTA call to action, I want to make sure that somebody understands that if you can't afford working with an expert right now, as of today, I know for a fact I didn't. I took my first paycheck from a barbecue joint and I put it into my company, right? The MLM company that I was a part of back then. Like I was like, again, going all in with that. you need to go ahead and dive into the content that's online for free. Verify the results with mentors. Verify the results online and see how long has this guy been in business? How is their reputation? And do your research and then dive deep. Don't find 25 different mentors. Find a couple of people that you can study. And then the entire point of having content is to help somebody get to the point to where they can work with you, to where you are impacting them, even if they're not qualified. Because face it, we can't do pro bono work 24/7, and we can't spend our time working with somebody for absolutely free when our normal rate's a couple $1,000s. And that's just the truth. But a little bit about the podcast. I know that Charity on the screen is pulling up the podcast for my business, but that right there is actually something that we're working on for Q4 of this year and moving into Q1 of 2022. Where my podcast really thrives is Chase the Vision with Isaac Mashman. That's the podcast that I've had since 2019. Over 80 episodes in. By the time this drops, maybe 85 or 80, I don't know, more than that. I've interviewed a lot of fantastic people, and the premise of the podcast is helping people become a more capable individual through chasing after their vision, right? Through the means of personal development. I use it as a platform to share my experiences and knowledge, and therefore propel somebody forward. It's on every single platform. I've interviewed Matt Devine of Cameo, which recently reached $1 billion valuation, some people from Entrepreneur Media. And if I could leave you with anything, it would be a quote: at the center of all success is personal growth. At the center of all achievement is personal growth. That right there is what I live by, because I think that you need to go ahead and reinvest yourself back, or reinvest your money and your cash flow back into yourself. And that's how you make more money at the end of the day.
Awesome. Yes. Love that. Hear that, everyone out there? Get yourself a mentor or coach. Hello. Or books, right? Books and YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of ways to find mentors and coaches. So
YouTube University, baby. YouTube University.
Yes. Yeah, you can find us there too.
Right?
Look us up. So it was a pleasure, Isaac. Love having you on the show. Hope to have you back sometime soon. Everyone stay tuned for more tips and tricks.
Thank you again, Charity.
Thank you.